What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I introduce to you Shadow of the Moon. All right, everyone, so yes, I've landed on an Eclipse theme for this blaster. Obviously, we have the Eclipse cage. We have LEDs here in the stock that, in my opinion, kind of represent the halo of the Eclipse. There's moon accents on the side of the Crossbow, and I thought it was the perfect name because this was built during the total full eclipse here in Indianapolis. So that was a pretty awesome event, and it just really felt like it was the right name and the right theme for this blaster. Obviously, if you're not familiar with what we've been doing here and you haven't been following along with the build vlogs, there's been a ton of work done to this integration. This is obviously a minimized Stryfe to accept Talon mags only, and then integrated into the vintage 1995 Kenner Crossbow. Really wanted to pay homage to the Crossbow in this build, trying to keep a very similar look to the original, just maybe slightly more tactical, obviously adding the Cerakoted Picatinny rails, which I think turned out really awesome. And I did those yellow to try to keep with the theme of the original Crossbow and the yellow internals and parts that you see with the blaster. We have also a yellow metal Cerakoted trigger there, along with the Stryfe sling point down here. If you didn't notice, we have a teal trigger and mag release, and that was to simulate the color of the original priming handle of the Crossbow. Then we also Cerakoted the Eclipse flywheel cage, and we dyed the flywheels a custom purple, and I think it turned out awesome. The top rail here is a Modulus ECS rail that I took the Nerf rail off of and attached the Picatinny rail on top, and that I think looks really good and gives you a nice sight line down the blaster. Really like the negative space underneath there, and it kind of coordinates well with the Stryfe shell, in my opinion, and I think it looks better on this blaster than it did on the original. So obviously we have those three blasters that have been integrated together, but a lot of this was also blended with flat stock plastic, whether that being ABS, polycarbonate, or polystyrene. We had to custom shape some parts to blend them together, and you will get all of that in great detail in the build vlogs, but that was definitely a process and a ton of work. But I definitely think that was a great way to keep the original look of the Crossbow, which is very flat on the sides. Obviously this side being almost completely flat, which is honestly a big challenge to do. I also tried to keep as much of the Crossbow as possible. We even added windows, obviously, to the sides of the blaster so you could see through to that flywheel cage, and that is very similar to the original Crossbow look, as you can see through to the plunger tube. And I think that was definitely something that is unique to this integration that I haven't seen anyone else do so far with their Crossbow integrations. Not too many of these integrations out there, but there's definitely a few. And obviously this was also inspired a lot by Coop 772, who did a gorgeous one almost a decade ago. And then Hawkeye also did one that was really, really cool. And both of those turned out great. And I wanted to kind of put my own spin on this integration, and I feel like I did so. We definitely kept the front of the blaster looking very similar to the original Crossbow, even using the front muzzle from the original Crossbow, which is a faux muzzle on both this blaster and in the original. The firing portion actually is below that on this blaster. Obviously on the original Crossbow, it shoots arrows from the top here. This is rocking a custom paint job that is very similar in color to the original Crossbow. We first hit it with a 2K primer, then we went over it with a base coat of House of Colors Wine Glow, and then encapsulated that with a 2K clear. The gunmetal parts are Paint Huffer's custom color Smoke Show, which is a really nice gunmetal color that is a little bit brighter than the original, but I actually prefer that. Gives it a nice pop. And the purple Wine Glow paint is very, very close, but definitely more glossy than the original, which I think is absolutely perfect. We also have a momentary switch on the side here of the grip that triggers the voltmeter here in the back. Then we have a switch, on-off switch back here in the stock that turns on and off our absolutely amazing LEDs. These LEDs are controlled by a micro switch on the side, and I can change the color and the design of these LEDs with an app on my phone, which is a first for me and definitely a highlight of the blaster. I think it's definitely something I will be doing more in the future because this turned out absolutely incredible. Diffusing the LEDs, we have a silicone channel that fit perfectly into the negative space of the Crossbow stock, and we went with custom cut polycarbonate that's been sanded to diffuse the LEDs in the top. Internally, we have Band Blaster 42 motors powering the Eclipse cage, completely rewired with 18 AWG silicon wire and a new Omron micro switch running off of a 3S LiPo. The LEDs are also powered from that same LiPo, but they are 5 volts, so we had to bring the voltage down with a buck converter. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take this blaster and put it over the chronograph and see what kind of performance we're getting. I have not chronographed this yet, so it'll be exciting to see what kind of performance this thing is getting. All right, you guys, it is super windy out here today, so we'll see how that affects things. First, we're gonna try the standard on my channel, the Worker Gen 3s, and then we'll try Ruby Darts because I know that's better for most flywheelers. It's gonna get you a little higher FPS, I do believe, but we'll find out. So let's just see how we do. $164, $169, $167, $161, $172, $171, $166, $160, $169. All right, so right around that high 160s, 170 mark, pretty darn good. We'll see what the Ruby Darts can do. 172, 171, 168, 167, 166, duplicate 166, duplicate 166, 161, 166, 166. So very similar FPS with that. I don't see much of a difference between the two darts, but you know, right around the 170 mark, I think that's pretty good. I'm sure it'll get better as we build up more foam on these flywheels. But that being said, I don't think I'm gonna be using this blaster too much. It is definitely a piece of art. It's a showpiece, and it'll be for show, not for wars. But it's capable of doing that, and that's what I built this for. It's very comfortable, very nicely weighted. It turned out like perfectly weighted, which was kind of a surprise, honestly. I think if you go from the magwell, it's actually a little bit back heavy, but if you go from the grip, it's like perfectly weighted in the center. So, you know, I feel like this is a beast of a blaster. You could obviously put a higher FPS cage in there if you wanted to, but I think this is the cage that is meant to be with this blaster for me. and it is definitely the best looking cage in there. So let's go back to the couch, and I'm going to talk about what more I might do with this blaster in the future and things I might have done differently or things I might change. All right, you guys, so obviously I'm really satisfied and happy with how this thing turned out, but there may be a few things that I add to it or do differently, I guess. I don't know about do differently. I mean, I feel like everything turned out pretty much like I wanted it to. Super happy with it. I mean, obviously the paint job situation, I wish that would have gone a little smoother, but in the end it turned out pretty darn good. I definitely think that there's some things that I would do differently if I possibly could, but I knew that kind of going in. I mean, obviously it'd been nice to have a controlled environment, a paint booth of some sort, maybe just try to get rid of some of the orange peeliness on the clear coat, but it's just hard to paint outside here in Indiana. So considering the time of year, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. It's definitely one of my better paint jobs, if not my best one. So pretty happy with that. The paint looks gorgeous in the end, so I'm very happy with the color. But I may add a few things. I know I didn't end up going with the sticker on the battery door, but maybe I'll try to make another battery door and do one with the sticker and just see, you know, which one I like. But I kind of like it without. I think it was the right choice. But, you know, you could always do a second battery door and then have one just at least on this side. So that would be cool. Also, I might add LEDs into the motor cage if I can find a way to wire them and place the strips down there somewhere, at least one or two of the LEDs on a strip down in there. But it's definitely tight quarters, and this didn't have time to do that beforehand. I'm still playing around with the pusher because it's still a little inconsistent. For some reason, it doesn't want to allow the darts to come up. I completely got rid of the extension I put on there because it was working great at first, but then it ended up causing problems, I guess. But it's still not allowing the darts to come up all the way in certain situations. So I'm still trying to figure that out. I might have to open this up and figure that out. It's not like a big thing. It's probably very easy to take care of, but it's just something that I need to address, which will require me to open the blaster up again, which is a little bit of a task, but you know, definitely doable. So there's still some things. Obviously, you're always tweaking blasters, you know, doing things to them. But overall, I'm very happy with it. It is definitely a great showpiece, and that's kind of what it's going to be, like I said. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I'm really excited to see what everyone else is doing in the Merge Masters competition. Hopefully that will go up soon, and I will definitely have a link in the description box to where you can check out mine, where you can go vote when that is available. And I will definitely also post stuff on Instagram and Facebook. So definitely make sure you're following me on those platforms. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and the final overview of Shadow of the Moon. Thank you guys so much. Smash that like button. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. And as always, guys, peace out.